It has been 92 days since closing. You are finally starting to feel normal in the house. The boxes are mostly gone. You know which stair creaks. You stopped checking your bank account every 4 hours. The monthly payment still scares you a little, but it has at least become a routine number instead of a life event. Then your manager drops a meeting on your calendar with no context. 15 minutes, human resources joins. The words come out in that polished corporate tone designed to sound respectful, while your brain quietly leaves the room. Restructuring, role eliminated, transition support, severance details to follow. And all you can think is, I just bought a house, not last year, not after building a huge cushion 3 months ago, which means the house has barely become real, and the paycheck that made the whole thing possible is already gone. Losing a job is always bad, but losing a job right after closing is a very specific kind of psychological violence. Because a house purchase creates a fake sense of stability before the stability is actually durable. You spend months proving to lenders that your income is real. Your employment is steady. Your debt is manageable. Your profile is safe enough to carry the payment. Then, once the deal is done, life no longer cares that underwriting approved the story. Now the mortgage exists, the tax bill exists, the insurance bill exists, the utility bills exist, the maintenance risk exists, and the income that justified all of it can disappear in one calendar invite. That is why this situation feels so cruel. It is not just the loss of work. It is the speed at which a recent victory can get reclassified as a problem you are suddenly not sure you can carry. The first thought is usually much uglier. Did I just ruin my life at the exact moment I thought I fixed it? That is the voice people do not say out loud. Because from the outside, a recent homeowner is supposed to look stable, supposed to look responsible, supposed to look like the person who got it together. So, when job loss shows up right after closing, the emotional whiplash is brutal. You feel lucky and stupid at the same time. Lucky because you got approved in time. Stupid because now the approval feels like a trap. And then the mind starts sprinting. How many payments can I cover? What auto-pays are hitting next? Can I pause anything? How bad is severance? How fast can I find work? Do I tell people? Do I hide it until I know more? Do I call the servicer now, or only if I fall behind? The house that was just becoming a place to live turns back into a math problem. Because it is long enough that the adrenaline is gone, but short enough that you have not rebuilt much. Maybe the emergency fund is already thinner from moving costs. Maybe you bought furniture you tried to keep modest. Maybe the first insurance payment hit harder than expected. Maybe the utility setup, the small fixes, the blinds, the appliances, the random hardware store runs already ate more than you admitted. 3 months after closing is often the point where the house still feels new, but the cash has started quietly leaking from all directions. So, a layoff in that window does not hit a clean balance sheet. It hits a household that is still inflamed from becoming a household. That is why people in this position often sound extra panicked, even when they technically still have some savings. They know those savings are not sitting there untouched. They are already mid-conversion into home ownership. If you are renting, job loss would still be terrifying. But renting has one kind of fear. A recently purchased house has several at once. Mortgage due date, escrow shortage risk, repairs you can no longer absorb, the possibility that something expensive breaks while income is gone, the humiliation of having to explain to people that you finally bought a house, and then immediately got laid off. that last part matters more than people think. Because new homeowners are often carrying a private expectation. Now that I bought, I should finally look like someone whose life is getting more stable. So, when instability returns immediately, it feels personal, not just economically bad. It feels like you tried to graduate into a safer life and got pulled backward before the applause even finished. This is the phase where people do fake normal. They keep every auto-pay running. They avoid opening certain emails. They do optimistic math. They tell themselves the next job will happen fast. They delay the ugly spreadsheet because seeing the real runway makes the whole thing feel official. That silence is expensive. Because job loss after closing is one of those events where clarity is more valuable than comfort. What matters first is not pride, it is timeline, cash on hand, severance after tax, essential bills only, true monthly survival number. What can be paused, what cannot? What happens if the search takes longer than your optimistic version? People avoid this because it feels like surrender. But the opposite is true. Refusing to look at the runway is what gives panic control. Because buying a house is not just a transaction. It is an identity event. It tells you, I am building something. I am more stable than before. I am finally moving forward. Then job loss lands on top of that new identity and makes the whole thing wobble. Now the question is no longer only, how do I replace income? It becomes, was I ever actually secure, or was I just one bad quarter away from finding out the foundation was emotional? That is why people in this exact situation often become hyper-alert. Every creak in the house sounds expensive. Every letter in the mailbox feels hostile. Every delay in the hiring process starts feeling connected to the mortgage, even when the interview itself went fine. The house stops being shelter for a while. It becomes the timer on the wall. This title is not really about unemployment. It is about what happens when one system certifies you as stable, and then real life immediately tests whether that certification meant anything. 3 months earlier, the file said qualified, approved, safe enough. Now the body says, what if I just bought the biggest thing in my life right before the ground shifted? That is the emotional center of the story, not laziness, not failure, not even bad luck by itself. It is the shock of realizing that timing can make a responsible decision feel dangerous after the fact. That is what makes losing your job 3 months after closing feel so brutal. Not only because the paycheck stops, but because the house had just started to feel like proof that your life was finally holding together. And then one corporate meeting turns that proof into a question mark. The mortgage stays, the house stays, the due dates stay. Only the certainty leaves.